Oregon hit a home run when they hired Dan Lanning, but can they finally get over that hump and bring a national championship to Autzen Stadium? Let's get into it. Oregon has done nothing but win since the hiring of Dan Lanning, and last year, in their first time in the Big Ten Conference, they won the Big Ten, beating Penn State in the Big Ten title game, but they were into the buzzsaw that was Ohio State and mainly Jeremiah Smith in the Rose Bowl and the CFP. But Oregon is reloaded, and their roster is looking really good for another deep playoff run for this Oregon Ducks football program. Dante Moore. He was the backup of Oregon last year, so this is his second year in the program. Originally, he was committed to Oregon, but then flipped late to UCLA and started as a freshman there. Things didn't go so well. Dante Moore's always had the arm talent, but a lot of people in his recruiting process, and they were proven correct, that he just needed time to sit and develop. And Dante Moore wanted to play right away, which is understandable. Transfers out of UCLA after 1 year, after a lot of stuff with Chip Kelly. There was a lot of weird stuff just going on behind the scenes, and even on the football field. It just never looked like a good fit. Sits behind Dylan Gabriel last year, and now is ready to take over. And a lot of people at Oregon are talking about his arm strength and his arm talent is just ridiculous. So if Dante Moore can put it all together, we could see Dante Moore as a legitimate Heisman hopeful. Oregon also went out and got Mekhi Hughes, running back from Tulane. And if Mekhi Hughes decides to come out for the NFL draft after this season, he has a legitimate shot at being the first running back taken in the NFL draft. Mekhi Hughes can do everything. He can catch out of the backfield. He can take any play. Anytime he touches the ball, there's a chance for a touchdown. Mekhi Hughes is really good, and it's not just because he's facing weaker competition in the American at Tulane. Mekhi Hughes is a legit guy, and he's going to fit perfectly with this Oregon team. He kind of be like that throwback player that when you think of Oregon, you think of speed out of the backfield, and that's kind of Mekhi Hughes, but he is not afraid to lower the shoulder and run somebody over as well. Evan Stewart is projected to miss the most of the season. If he does return, it'll be super late in the year, but I thought he was at least a mention in this video, as Evan Stewart is a really good receiver. He's just unfortunate he's probably out for this whole year, but if Oregon makes a deep run, he could come back and be a spark plug late for this team. Wide receiver Dante Moore, a lot of it expected to end up at Texas. He ends up committing to Oregon, and there's already reports out that he is their best receiver. Kind of similar to what we saw last year with Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, and to a lesser degree, Cam Coleman. Dante Moore is a stud, and he has a chance right away to be Oregon's number one wide receiver. Evan Stewart is out for most of the year. Tez Johnson is off to the NFL. So there's targets out there, and Dante Moore I expect to step in and be that number one guy for Oregon right away. Oregon also went out and got Isaiah World from the transfer portal from Nevada. Really good left tackle. Even at Nevada, had a chance to go in the first round for this upcoming NFL draft. At Oregon, I expect him to solidify that and become a solidified first-round draft pick. Isaiah World is a great left tackle. He'll be able to protect Dante Moore's blind side and just help this Oregon offense continue to hum as they have done under Dan Lanning, even though Lanning is a defensive coach by trade. And even with Evan Stewart missing most of the season, the Oregon Ducks still have Kenyon Sadiq at tight end on their offense. He's just a real physical route runner, seeks contact, is athletic enough to stiff arm you, run right by you, but strong enough to just run right through you after the catch. Really good tight end, legit NFL guy. This Oregon team is littered with talent. Oregon is essentially in that Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Michigan, where no matter what year it is, they're going to have legit dudes on that team. It's just a matter for Oregon of putting it all together one year and not just making a deep playoff/conference run, but making a run and finally getting that national championship that they have been searching for what feels like over 20 years now at this point. Mateo Uiagalelei is probably the best pass rusher Oregon has had since Kayvon Thibodeau. And he is a legit NFL guy as well. You can say that about all these guys, to be honest. But he's a legit pass rusher. He's going to continue to get better, which is just scary to think about as already great as he is. He is a guy that is relentlessly getting to the quarterback and just very rarely loses reps. Mateo's a great off the edge. You could drop him in anywhere in any conference, and he would arguably be the best player on that defense. Mateo is a legit pass rusher off the edge. And then at that safety position, they went out and got Dylan Thieneman from Purdue. He's a hitter. He's a thumper. That's just the best way to put it. The guy can get downhill and thump you. And it just kind of adds that physical nature that you need in the Big Ten. Dan Lanning has done nothing but raise his program. Oregon has been a stable program for the last 20, 25 years. But Dan Lanning has taken them to another step to where they are 2-7 sometimes 3 deep, depending on the season on their depth chart. Now, obviously, you never want to, lose starters, your key guys, but if somebody has to miss some time, they have some people that can step up and play key roles and give them serviceable playing time. Dan Lanning has done nothing but win. That has been stated. Last year, they got 13-0, so I expect them to take a step back this year just because 13-0 in a regular season is just insane, and you're not going to do that. It's very unlikely that you're going to do that again with a new quarterback who, yes, has started before. A lot of new key pieces. But I think you also have some guys that are hungry. Like you have guys like Daniel Thiemann and Mekhi Hughes who transferred in from other programs. While Tulane, yes, is one of the better G5 schools, but now you're playing at the Big Ten. You're playing in front of sold-out crowds, big crowds every weekend, that you're going to want to prove your point and prove yourself. And to people that might be looking out, oh, you came from Tulane. Even Thiemann, who played in the Big Ten, but it was at Purdue, a program that a lot of people just overlook in football, and deservedly so, as that they have taken a major step back from what they were before. This Oregon team, they're in the class of the Big Ten with Michigan, Ohio State, and I'd even throw Penn State in there, in my opinion. Just 4 of the elite schools in this football conference. Now we get to Oregon's schedule. First week is Montana State, a little tune-up game. They'll blow them out of the water, even though Montana State is a good Division II program. And then take on Oklahoma State at home. Oklahoma State is going to have a lot to prove. They had a down year last year, but Oregon, I think, gets by them with relatively ease. Go to Northwestern. That game could be a little tricky just because of the travel from Autzen to Evanston, but they take care of business. Rivalry games with Oregon State. Rivalry games can get tricky, but I think Oregon State prevails. Then you travel to Penn State. I think it's a game that Oregon could lose, and I think it's a game that Penn State does win. Just a lot of weird travel, kind of weird early schedule. You're traveling to Evanston, then you're back home, and then you're traveling all the way to University Park. But so I think Oregon is 4-1 going into that bye. And then you play Indiana. No, Indiana is not sneaking up on anybody. They won't surprise anybody this year. So Oregon, I think that game will be a very good game, but I think Oregon pulls it out. You travel to Rutgers, same thing. You're traveling all the way to New Jersey from Oregon. I think that game could be a little weird, kind of similar to Oregon-Purdue last year. If you remember that game, I know Oregon fans do. Oregon did pull it out in the end, but little weird game. So I believe that game was on a Friday night as well. But Oregon pulls it out. You play Wisconsin. There's a good chance Luke Fickell's already fired by that. And plus, Wisconsin is traveling to Autzen. You get a win. You get the bye. You go to Iowa and Kinnick. Nothing is ever tough there, but I think they pull it out. You get Minnesota. You beat Minnesota. USC. I think USC will be better this year, but I still think they're a year or two away from really being back, which is crazy because how long Lincoln Riley has already been there. But I think Oregon pulls it out. And then you take on Washington at Washington. Go to Husky Stadium. Big-time rivalry game. Once again, rivalry games can get weird. But I think Washington could pull that out. But I do believe Oregon wins that game as well. And then that's 11-1. You're back in the Big Ten championship game. I don't think Oregon wins the Big Ten. I think Ohio State wins it this year. That's kind of a spoiler for a future Ohio State video. 11-1 would be crazy after a 12-0 regular season, 13-0 if you were going to count the Big Ten title game. I think they're in that 10 to 12 wins. I don't think they go undefeated again. That would just be insane. But I do think they lose to Penn State at Beaver Stadium. That's a 7:30 kickoff in University Park. And I think Indiana could give them some trouble. I think USC could, but that comes down to Jaden Mayava and that defense being real. And then Washington could be tricky just because of the rival game when you're playing in Husky Stadium late in the season. Could be some weather implications there. But Oregon's going to be right back into the thick of the Big Ten championship race, and I would not be surprised to see them in Ohio State in a Big Ten title game. And last but certainly not least, do I think Oregon makes it to the National Football Championship? I don't think they win the national championship this year, but I could see them winning a game or two in the playoffs and just having a relatively all-around successful season. I know we live in this ring culture where if you don't win the title, your season's a failure, and I just think that's dumb, and that's not a way to look at sports. It is hard to win a championship, but I think Oregon continues to lay the foundation and lay the bricks for what Dan Lanning is doing, and I think they win a couple games in the playoffs, but ultimately fall short of a national championship. As always, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. And let me know down in the comments, what do you think Oregon's final record will be? And do you think that they win the Big Ten again in their second season in the Big Ten Conference?